Hi everyone, welcome yet again to another exciting episode of the Teas for Peace podcast. Wow, episode 3. It's great to be here once again and to share one of the inspiring stories from our journey as a brand over the last 9 years. Today's episode is going to be hitting on something very special to us. As you know, we're a brand that is very big on promoting a lifestyle of peaceful coexistence. For this episode, we'll be talking about one of the charity projects we've undertaken as our own way of giving back to our community and engaging in the number one goal of the United Nations, which is ending poverty. You would recall that in episode 1, I talked about how Arewatees started with a small sum of 11,300 naira. Yes, I have the records. That's why I know the exact figures. From the very first time I started Arewatees, I made it a point to make sure that every single expense and revenue that comes in and goes out of the company will be recorded. And we've been doing that consistently for the last 9 years. So yes, 11,300. We started with that sum. But what if I told you, or rather, what if I asked you, can you start a business with 5,000 naira? I'm sure a lot of you will scoff at that, as even some around me did at the time. But then, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's begin with the story. So in 2022, I talked to my staff and we decided that we're going to do a charity project in Kakuri, in Kaduna State. I had this security man in my estate at the time. His name is Chief Obande. A very cheerful guy. Very cheerful man because he's a Baba. Yeah, very cheerful man. He was somebody that, he would always greet me respectfully, ask about how my family is doing and all of that. And so one day I got talking with him. And, I think I felt like he had told me at some point in time that he's a chief. I found that curious, but, it wasn't difficult to believe that because the way he carried himself, he truly carried himself with honor, and respectfully, but was also a humble guy, like I said. So I now decided that, okay, let me talk to him about this project that we have. Since he's a chief, and he's, like a community leader, he will be the best person to tell us how to go about such a scheme. So after talking to him, he said, wow, this is a very good idea that we should go to the community, set up a meeting so that we can meet with other stakeholders, and hear their own inputs as well. So what I told him essentially was that Arewatees wants to empower some people, do something that is sustainable and has a very strong impact. But our budget was 50,000 naira. So we had that stakeholders meeting in Kakuri on the 24th of March, I remember. And, there was a youth leader, there was a policeman, there were different people from different stations of life. And we sat down there at the meeting and a lot of suggestions came up. Some people said, look, there's hunger in the land. We need to just gather people, maybe 50 to 100 people or so, and just share food for them that day so that they can have some respite. Other people said paying WAEC fees is a very huge problem for many people. So why don't we look for the brightest students in some of the schools there and pay their WAEC fees, But I remember Chief Obande was quite vocal about helping widows. Because he felt like there were a lot of widows who were going through a lot of problems and what have you and everything. So ultimately we told them that, we'll go back with our team, think about all of this and then get back to them on what we wanted to do that we felt would have lasting impact. So when we went back, I still kept talking with Chief Obande, and he came up with a list. I think 2 weeks or thereabouts. In 2 weeks' time, I think, or so, he came up with a list. And it was a list of 70 names, all of them women, mostly widows, who were listing their problems, essentially. And it was very heartbreaking to read that list, because the whole entire problems of those 72 women on that list centered on 4 things. School fees, school fees, food, rent, and money to treat their ailing kids or themselves. So essentially, ill health. And it was, before you think about, start saying that, man, these are things that all of us are grappling with and all of that. Let me put some perspective to this. I know somebody who was one of the laborers, I think, around my area or so, met me one day begging me to please help him with anything, because he needs 10,000 naira to supplement his 12,000 naira that he has, so that he can pay his rent of 24,000 naira. Like, up until that time, I couldn't even believe rent could be as low as 24,000 naira, And he told me he has children in school, he's struggling to pay their school fees, and he cannot even put anything together for his rent from his 10,000 naira a month salary. And you're talking about school fees now. How much are we looking at here? We're talking about 5,000 naira per term. I mean, I know a lot of people who pay school fees in the millions, but I'm talking about people who cannot even afford 5,000 naira to pay for their kids' school fees. I'm talking about ill health. Somebody else also, I think it's a security man somewhere, told me, I know I saw some rashes on his face. Like, what exactly is wrong with you? He said, yeah, it's just some rashes. I said, have you gone to the doctor or anything? He said, yeah, that there's one cream that they told him to buy. It's 500 naira, but he doesn't have money to buy it. So I'm just trying to give you context, like how people are really finding it difficult to cope, and how getting them to be able to do something that is profitable can lift them out of poverty. So I looked at this list, and we decided that, okay, fine, we're going to go with empowering some widows. But I didn't want a situation where we just empower them, like by just giving them cash, and letting it go. For us, we were very, very concerned about having a very sustainable scheme, right? Something that would have like impact and probably will be able to continue. So what I told Mr. Chief Obande then was, okay, what? We have a budget of 50,000 naira. We can only attend to like 5 widows. And we want these widows to be people who have done business before, so that at least we can be sure that, again, it could be sustainable. And we're also looking at widows that have a lot of kids, because we feel like those are the most vulnerable. He said, okay, fine, that he'll get back to the stakeholders, and then he will select some of the widows for this. So about a month later, I think that was 20th June, which was the next 2 months or so, if I remember correctly. We went back, and we interviewed the widows. I remember before going there, I was thinking about it. I said, yes, I know I started Arewatees with 11,300. Will 5,000 naira be able to help anybody start his business? But, something told me that, look, it's not just about the money, it's about the mentorship, the guidance that you give to them. I remember discussing with my wife at the time, and, she was adamant that 5,000 naira cannot do anything, to help somebody's business. That can we be giving them 5,000 naira? But I remained adamant, and we just kept going back and forth, And then she told me that, look, even if it is akara the person wants to do, the pan alone might be like 4,000 naira. I told her that, look, you allow these people to decide themselves, But anyways, I decided that it was worth giving it a shot. So we went there, met these women, and then we started interviewing them just to get a sense of what their problems were and all of that. So I'll be using initials just so that I can preserve the identities, you know. So the first woman we interviewed, let's call her Mrs. AC. She was a tailor. She used to live behind Gwanjimbia, you know, in Kaduna here. But there was a time when there was a high spate of kidnapping at the area around that side, so she had to move to Kakuri. And when she moved to Kakuri, her tailoring business essentially grinded to a halt because she was staying far away from the road. She didn't know anybody around, and you know, so it was difficult to start again. She thought about going to Sabo, you know, at least maybe getting somewhere that's closer to the road that has an urban population, more of an urban population or something. But they told her that renting a shop there was 40,000 naira, something she couldn't afford, you know. So as it were, she was just sitting at home. Her husband wasn't doing anything, and you know, she had 4 kids to take care of. You know, that struck me. I was like, I thought we're just trying to work with widows here, but I just felt, okay, you know what, let me give this woman a chance and let me see how all of this goes, you know. So I asked her, now what we want to do is we want to give you guys a grant of 10,000 naira, but we're going to give you 5,000 naira first, and then after 3 months we would pay the second tranche of 5,000. So what can you do with 5,000? And to our shock, she said she has been praying to God for a miracle to just have 5,000 naira so that she can start a corn business, like roasting corn, you know, that if she gets this 5,000 naira, it will be her prayers answered, like answered prayers, as we see, you know. I think I should have just looked at my wife that time and, you know, winked or something, but I didn't do that. Anyways, so she said, when she said that, she now said that if she gets the 5,000, what she would do is she will buy charcoal for 1.5. She will buy the iron gas that she will put on the pan, you know. She'll buy that as well for 1.5. And then she will buy I think corn worth 1.5 or so, and then she said she'll be able to get the pan for free from somewhere or so, and she would start the business. So I asked her as well, like, okay, how much profit do you think you can make in a day? And she said she can make, from her estimation, she can make up to like 200 naira a day, you know. So if she does that every week consistently, 200 naira times 6 days, that Monday to Saturday will be 1,2, and then for a month will be 4,8. So what we told all these women was, this is the formula. We're going to be monitoring you every week. So every week we'll come, you give us a report of how much you made and all of that. But what we're going to do is every day when you make the profit, split it into 2. Use half of it to take care of you and your family, and then the other half, save it so that you can reinvest it back into your business. So that was the formula. Then the next person we interviewed was, let's call her Mrs. PG. You know, she has 6 children, battling as well to how to survive and everything. She said she used to sell like alubo, that's a cassava powder, before. But you know, the business crumbled, and right now she's still looking for capital to get back to doing the business. So when we asked her, okay, so 5,000 naira, how are you going to, you know, restart this business and all of that? She said, okay, the way she used to do it before, she goes to Monday market. You know, Monday market, the market happens every Monday, and what she does is she buys a sack of that alubo for 36,000, and then she breaks them down into small batches and sells to people, like I don't know, at retail, you know, and then gets her profit from it, you know. But then we told her, okay, fine, that's a good business model, but unfortunately we only have 5,000 naira for you, so what can you do? She thought for some minutes, and they said, okay, that what she can do is she'll meet her supplier that used to give her the bag of cassava every Monday. So she's going to meet the supplier, put the 5,000 naira as a deposit so that he can give her that sack. I mean, since they're all in the market together, at the end of the Monday, at the end of the market day, whatever she makes, she'll use that to pay for the bag of cassava flour, and then she'll take the profits. I was like, great. You see, I even applauded her that look at how she has been able to use her own intelligence to find a solution, you know. So yes, that was what she ended up doing. But we'll get back to her story. So the third person we talked to was, we'll call her Mrs. VA. She used to have a restaurant business, you know, but then it was in a container. And when the owner of the container wanted to leave the area, he wanted to sell the container, but she didn't have the 170,000 naira that she needed to pay. I mean, that he was asking for to pay for the container. And essentially that put her out of business. She told us that her brother helped her, you know, gave her 50,000 or so to rent a shop. She rented the shop, but she didn't have money to paint the shop, buy foodstuff and all of that, you know. So the shop had already, the rent for the shop had already expired by, no, not expired, but like that. She had paid for 1 year, but 6 months had elapsed and she had not even started using the shop. You know, so that was a big problem for her. So we asked her, 5,000 naira, what will you do? She thought and said, okay, you know what, before she sell food and all of that, but what she will start with is bread and beans. That for things like water, and now what she would do is that she can just buy the beans, but the water, the drinks, she can buy that get that on credit and then return the money to the person at the end of the day. It was like fantastic, no problem, you know. And the fourth woman was we'll call her Mrs. MG. She used to do like a fish business, a thriving fish business, but then I think her husband died or something happened then, and then she couldn't continue the business. She had to switch to yams. Then at a point too, her capital dried up and, you know, she couldn't really kick up the business again. She said that for her to start the business, she had to start with 30,000. I was like, you know what, you just have 5,000, so tell us what you do. So she was like, okay, you know what, she can do the roasted corn business as well. Yeah, so now let me talk about the journeys of these women with regard to how the businesses progressed. So for Mrs. AC, she wanted the 5,000 to start her a roasted corn business, right? She ended up getting everything and she started. So our operations manager at the time was assigned to her to follow her up every week, right? So in the first week, you know, she started. She made 9,700 naira. She was able to save 9,700 naira, right? Which was even more than what she had said she was going to be able to save, which was like 4,800. You know, in fact, the second week, you know, I think she made less because she fell ill, you know, and all of that. But I think by the second week of the second month, she excitedly called my wife, you know, who was the person assigned to follow her up, excitedly called her, told her that, look, this money that she's been saving, you know, she's been able to buy a small phone that her children cannot do hashakara again, that at least now even this phone is going to even help her with the business and all of that, you know. And she even said that even though that she fell ill before, so she should have even made more money, but she wants to really thank us that she cannot even believe this for 5,000 naira. Like, look at, she needs to buy a phone. That if even now that her daughter that is going to going for computer lessons, she now has money to give her for transport. She now has money to buy some things for the house. Like, she was just so excited, you know. So all of this, by the end of the 3 months, she had been able to save 27,000 naira, which was shocking to her, you know. And she now told us that by the end of 3 months, she had not just saved 27,000 naira, bought a phone and all of that. She had also been able to branch out to like other businesses, like to add that to what she was doing. So she had started with the roasted corn. I think in the second month, she added sugarcane. And by the third month, she was roasting corn, selling sugarcane, and also selling granuts. So you can imagine what 5,000 naira did for that woman. So coming back to Mrs. PG, the one I told you was into selling alubo. So she told us later on that when the first week she went and met her supplier, she didn't even need to deposit all the 5,000 naira. She deposited less than that, and then the amount of money that was left, she used it to buy sweet potatoes, so that she would also be able to be selling, doing business at home at the remaining days of the week. Like I told you, Monday market just happens only on Mondays. So what she was now doing, she was getting like a multiple streams of income. Getting money from the alubo business she does on Mondays, and also the sweet potato business that she does at home. For her too, I think at the end of the 3 months, she was able to save about over 20,000 naira. She was sick for like, I think 2 weeks, had to be on admission and all of that. There was also a time that rain fell heavily. She could not go to the market on Monday, but ultimately she was still able to make far and above what she even thought was possible. But I'll share like some things she said later on. Yeah, so for Mrs. VA, who had the restaurant business, all of that, it was also an interesting story because she wanted to start with beans, right? Beans and bread. She started that, and in the second week or third week thereabout, she added rice to the mix. And by the second month, she added semo and eba, So essentially, by the end of the 3 months, what started with just bread and beans, and then getting water and drinks on credit, now became a full-blown restaurant, for her. She was now able to, have, again, multiple streams of income from the different products she was selling. And not just that, she also said that before we gave her this 5,000 naira, she had gotten a loan, right? And it was putting a lot of pressure on her, with contributions and everything. But by the second month, she was able to pay off that loan, based on how she was following our formula to save every week, take half for caring for her family and the other half to invest into the business, And she said that she was also thinking about her son. I think her son or her daughter, who was supposed to go to secondary school, senior secondary school. She kept thinking, like, how will she save money? So she now decided that she was going to get a piggy bank and just be putting money there periodically and all of that. So she kept doing that, and then the person among her team who was assigned to her was also following up with her, calling her every week, to check up on how her stuff was doing, And it will interest you to know that at the end of the 3 months, she was able to make a total of 37,000 naira. I think it was even well over that, because for what she said, by the time she broke her piggy bank, she saw 37,200 naira. It shocked her. And that was enough to pay the school fees for her son, and then don't forget that she had also been saving money to, feed the family and all of that. In fact, when we came back, at the end of the 3 months to talk with her, all the women, she was so full of praise, saying that this particular money was just divine. Like, she's borrowed 100,000 before, 50,000, and she will not even be able to save 5,000 naira. But here she was, with a grant of 5,000 naira and that constant mentoring and everything, and she's been able to save 37,000, and not just doing that, build her business back and all of that, So for Mrs. MG, who I personally was the one who supervised her, I remember going to go and see her. I think it was in the second week or so. She leveraged a relationship she had with somebody who had a store in the market, around Casino roundabout, Lagos Street. So he offered that she could come and sell corn at his frontage, So she described the place for me. I went there, I was talking to her, and she said, that, man, this thing has started well, that look at, people are even coming to buy the corns. If I see the kind of crowd that used to gather around here, she wish I came when all the good cobs were still available. That which one will she dash me? And I said, no, you don't do business like that. You just study small. I'm going to buy it. She insisted that she must give it to me free. I said, nope, I'm going to pay for this. And so she told me that it's really moving well, but unfortunately the next week she fell ill. I think she's an elderly woman, so her rheumatism had kicked in or so I think for about 2 weeks she couldn't really do anything, but then the fourth week she got herself back, was able to still save some money following her formula and all of that. But then unfortunately in the second month her daughter fell terribly ill. She had a very terrible skin infection, and all the money she saved had to go into helping, her daughter, and it effectively just ended the business for her. One key thing you should notice is that most of these women fell ill at some point, and it just shows you how poverty and health are very, very interlinked. So many times people cannot really escape poverty because of ill health. And they don't forget that most times their environment, their state of mind, their state of health, their exposure predisposes them to a lot of illnesses, right? So it starts from the surrounding, their lifestyles, their diet and all of that, which is why it's very, very helpful to look at poverty alleviation holistically. It's not just about, as we say in Nigeria, dashing people money and all of that. It's really about looking at it holistically. How is the health insurance? How are the primary health centers? How is their closeness to health provision and all of that, So we as businesses can do our bit in this regard, but there are also macro issues to look at that we do not have control over. So this is really a clarion call for leaders, especially in institutions and government, to really look at poverty alleviation from a holistic view. And in concert with businesses, we can help make a huge difference in our society. So by the time the 3 months was over, like I said, we came to talk to the women and give them their second tranche and all of that. All of them, like I said, were full of praises, for what this money had done for them, and we encouraged them that, look, don't how do I put this? Don't give up on this formula we're giving you, right? Make sure that you maintain it. Any profits you make, divide it into two. Don't use everything to take care of your family, Just make sure that half of it is reinvested into the business, because that's what is going to make the business grow. We reminded them, like they themselves had told us, that from 5,000 naira they've been able to get 20,000, 30,000, and even as much as 40,000 naira, to help reinvest in the business and just essentially try to lift themselves up from poverty. So what are the lessons we can really learn from this? First of all, you should never think that money is the problem. Of course, money does a lot of good to help businesses thrive. It does a lot of good to help businesses scale. But money many times is not the problem. A lot of times it could be your business model, it could be your environment, it could be your mentality, it could be your idea. These are things that you need to sort of solve before you even start thinking about money, right? And you should never forget that you can always start small. Like I have reiterated earlier on in this video, Arewatees, we've made north of 9 figures in revenue, right, over the years. But we started with 11,300 naira. It's shocking to a lot of people, because there are many people that will say, you know what, if only I had 1 million naira, if only I had 10 million naira, this my idea will take off. But you know what? They could give you 10 million naira now and you just blew it on all the wrong things. But business, you learn by failure. Many times you have to try out several ideas, fail at them, and then keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking till you get to the right idea, right? And then another thing again, another very crucial thing we should look at is when we talk about capital, we shouldn't always be looking at capital as from a monetary view. There's also something called social capital. Many times, it's not money you need. What you need is plugging into your network, right? Plugging into your relationships, your family, your friends, your business partners, customers. Sometimes even as a business, you see that to raise money, you don't even need to go externally. You just talk to your customers. 10 customers can give you all the money you need to, invest in something you want to do, right? And I think lastly, a very, very crucial part of business progress and progress is mentorship. You can't do it with mentorship. Like for a lot of people, mentorship is the deal breaker. Like that's the thing that would really move you from 0 to 100, right? So you can see that because these women, we were able to mentor them every week for 3 months. What they couldn't do before, or how they couldn't see money before, they started seeing money in a different light. Their relationship with money changed. Their relationship with business changed. Of course, for many of them, I'm sure they must have seen 2,000 or 5,000. Like the other woman said, she had even taken loans of up to 100,000, but she could not save. But here she was now, getting 5,000 naira, and not just 5,000 naira, but mentorship. And look at what it did. So essentially, the mentorship was far more valuable than the 5,000 naira that was given to her. So again, to reiterate, social capital, very crucial. Starting small, very crucial. And mentorship, very crucial. I hope this inspires you to know that you can start small. You can start with something little, and you can also start with the wealth around you, the wealth of people, the wealth of networks, the wealth of your mind, and also the little savings that you make over time. Thank you. And I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. See you on the next one.